Sometimes it sure is nice to just kind of get outside and get away from it all. Sometimes you're just inundated with all the auto AI generated fake garbage that's out there. You just feel like you need to break away, step back, and come outside and get a breath of fresh air. One of the leisurely things that I like to do that help me take my mind off of AI and away from AI is I like to listen to music sometimes. I like to just, kick back and let the vibes and the melodies kind of just flow over me. Oh, wait, hold on. When I look at AI art and AI artists, and I consider the debates that rage around these centralized topics, I oftentimes find myself quite nostalgic for the days of old when we used to debate and have passionate, heated discussions about such simpler and smaller topics like Android versus iPhone or Windows versus Macintosh. Gone are the days of old where we could simply draw a line in the sand and pick a side, and you stand on that side, I'll stand on my side, and we'll sit here and hurl insults at each other. Because clearly, my preference is objectively superior to yours. It is incredibly fascinating to me that some of the biggest skeptics, some of the biggest critics, some of the biggest haters of AI, of robotics, of all of this prevalent technology, if it were, are the artists and the more right-brained individuals, shall we say. The creative types are absolutely going through a bit of shock and awe, as it were, with the current iterations of an innovative, disruptive technology stumbling upon them in their sacred little spot and absolutely storming their way into the sandbox and kicking down the sandcastle, as it were. And I suppose many would side with them in this instance, and they would say, well, the artists have a pretty good reason to be the big haters that they are. No other industry, no other sector of humanity has AI been able to bust into like art. And while there is a discussion to be had about the efficacy of utilizing and commercializing AI generated art versus hiring an artist, regardless of where anyone stands on the issue, the simple reality is that freelance artists on Fiverr are drying up wholesale, and people are losing jobs left, right, and center. All because you can now go to OpenAI, ChatGPT, and prompt away. And it might not be the greatest art in the world, but it's good enough. And trust you me, as an avid gamer and somebody who's watched the video game industry go in much the same direction, oftentimes what ends up being mainstream is not the real fine product, but in fact, it's usually the thing that's just good enough. But also, it's a little tricky. It's a little difficult to just have unbridled empathy for them either, because the thing is this technology didn't exactly just show up overnight. And most of us are very well aware that it certainly wasn't really capable of competing with artists initially either. No, I feel as though the artist has had time to process this existential threat. The unfortunate thing is that they did not properly plan and prepare to deal with the existential threat. And now they are reaping what they sow. They are losing in all accords. And there might not be much hope for the human artist left at this point either. But, as you should all be aware by now, I am not one for doom and gloom, and I don't believe that the human artist is entirely dead either. No, far from it. I think if anything, this is just simply another form of competition. And even though many of them, I won't say all and I won't say none, but many of them, many of them have been absolutely sucker punched and side blinded by this innovative disruption. As I've been warning about, as I've been putting it out there, even though this has already happened, there's still time to act. There's still time to go. There's still time to do. As it currently stands, I look at my own Spotify playlist and I easily recognize that no, I won't be just completely isolating myself to the AI and tuning out the humans anytime soon. In fact, easily all of everything I listen to is certainly not coming from an AI chatbot of all things. But more than just the artist, all of us need to take a candid look at what is happening with art in our world today. And we all need to recognize that in only a couple years, it can be you, it can be me, it can be each and every one of us in between. Yet again, I've said it a billion times before, and I will say it a billion times again. AI is an innovation that is set for disruption. It is going to come in wholesale, and it is going to destroy and disrupt. And it will kneecap the incompetent. If you half-ass your job, if you half-ass your career, if you half-ass the craft and the service that you provide as an amenity to the rest of society at large, I promise you, a robot is going to show up and do good enough to the point to where you are out of work. So, where does that leave us? Will you start listening to AI music artists in your Spotify playlist? Will you start boycotting AI all around? Will you hide under a rock, join the Amish communities, and pretend that AI doesn't exist? It'd be interesting to see just how many fields this thing can break into in the next couple of years. And those who aren't planning, and those who aren't prepared. And more on the topic, in all honesty, let's actually discuss AI music. Have you listened to AI music? Have you checked out Suno AI, the generative AI music creator? Have you experimented with this technology or utilized it in any real capacity? Have you considered, if it's good enough to get on a top 50 playlist, it's got to be worth something, right? But yet again, what exactly defines good enough? And what is your good enough? What is my good enough? And where do those two thresholds meet? Does my good enough surpassing your good enough, inherently make it the true good enough? Or is there a level of not good enough to where it's just crap all around? I think that's kind of an obvious one, but still, I'm curious. I would love to know. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your opinions on the matter. So, hit me up, send me a reply, and let's talk. Let's discuss AI-generated music, AI-generated art, and AI disrupting entire sectors, even sectors that we never thought possible. But here we are.